Tokyo, a city of lights, fashion, and restless souls. Amid the vibrant chaos of Shinjuku once stood the Kagawa department store. A place where beauty was worshipped like a religion. But behind the spotless glass and perfect mannequins, another kind of beauty waited. One buried, imprisoned, and longing to return to the world of the living. Greater than, when the lights go out. Only then do we see what's truly smiling in the dark. Chapter 1. The Eyes Behind the Glass. The Kagawa department store in Shinjuku had stood for over 60 years. By day, it was a paradise of fashion, golden lights bathing the polished floors. Elegant mannequins posed gracefully behind spotless display glass. But by night, when the crowds dispersed and the lights dimmed, the store turned into something else entirely, a hollow, breathing thing, filled with hums of old fluorescent lamps and the faint murmur of unseen movement. Haruka, a new employee just assigned to the night cleaning shift, wasn't used to the silence yet. It was her first night working alone. The other janitors were on lower floors, leaving her in charge of the women's fashion section on the third floor. She wore her earbuds, music turned low to ease the tension, and began wiping the glass display panels. Halfway through, she felt it, the unmistakable weight of being watched. She lifted her head. Behind the glass stood dozens of female mannequins, their porcelain faces expressionless. But one, the one wearing the crimson dress, seemed to be staring right at her, even though its head was tilted slightly away. "It's just a trick of the light," she whispered to herself. She resumed wiping, but when she raised her head again, her heart stopped. The mannequin's head had turned. Her pulse quickened. Maybe someone had adjusted it earlier. Maybe her tired eyes were playing tricks. But as she stepped back, the fluorescent glare caught its glass eyes, and for a split second, she saw her own reflection trapped inside its pupils, small and trembling. A cold breeze swept through the corridor, though no windows were open. The song in her earbuds glitched, then went silent. And in that silence came a faint, crisp sound, crack, crack, like a joint twisting slowly. Haruka turned. The mannequin's head had rotated 90 degrees, facing her directly. The corners of its lips seemed to curl upward, ever so slightly. Her grip loosened, the spray bottle fell, spilling liquid across the floor. In the reflection of the puddle, she saw not one, but two figures standing behind her. She spun around. No one. Only the long, empty hallway leading toward a section sealed with faded caution tape. From there, faint and distant, came a whisper, a woman's voice, soft as a breath. "Greater than pretty, isn't it, Haruka?" Her knees went weak. No one on the night shift knew her name. Panicked, Haruka fled down the stairs. But before she left the third floor, something made her glance back one last time through the glass display. The mannequin in the red dress stood still, silent, just as before. Only one thing had changed. Its left hand was now raised, as if waving goodbye. Chapter 2. The Sealed Display Room. After that first night, Haruka couldn't sleep. No matter how hard she tried to convince herself it had been her imagination. The image of that mannequin, the one with the crimson dress and glassy eyes that seemed alive, refused to leave her mind. The next morning, she asked an older coworker about the third floor exhibit. The woman, Miyamoto-san, gave her a strange look. "Greater than, you shouldn't go there alone," she said quietly, "especially not to the corner on the right side. That area's been sealed for years." "Sealed?" Haruka asked. "Why? I saw mannequins still displayed inside." Miyamoto's expression stiffened. "Greater than, an accident," she whispered. "A model died during an exhibition there. After that, the manager locked the place up. No one's touched it since." The story crawled under Haruka's skin. She tried to forget it, but curiosity gnawed at her. On her third night, while mopping the hallway, she noticed a faint draft slipping out from under a metal door marked with old yellow caution tape, the one everyone avoided. The words on the tape had faded, but she could still make out, "Do not enter." Haruka looked around. The corridor was empty. Her hand trembled as she gripped her keyring. One of the old keys was marked 3B. She hesitated, then slid it into the lock. Click. The heavy door creaked open. A long, metallic groan echoing into the darkness. Inside, the air was damp, stale, and cold. The faint smell of rust and something else, something like old fabric soaked in mold, filled her lungs. She turned on her flashlight. Rows of mannequins covered with white sheets stood against the walls, their shapes ghostly under the fabric. There were dozens of them. None had heads, some had broken arms, others cracked torsos. Haruka's beam swept across the back wall and stopped. Deep gouges scarred the surface, long and jagged, like fingernail marks clawed into the plaster. Beneath those marks was a small dent in the wall, as though something, or someone, had struggled there. Lying nearby was a single red high heel, thick with dust. Haruka crouched, picking it up. Dried, dark stains clung to the heel, old, brownish, blood? Before she could look closer, a sound sliced through the silence, a soft scraping noise, like fabric brushing across the floor. She spun around. The flashlight wavered. One of the white sheets had fallen. It slid off the mannequin beneath, revealing a female figure, smooth, pale, eerily perfect. Its painted lips were slightly parted. Its posture relaxed, too human. And though it stood utterly still, Haruka could swear it was breathing. From somewhere behind her came the sound of slow, deliberate footsteps, echoing through the dark. She turned, heart hammering. Nothing, only the silent forest of headless mannequins. When she looked back at the crimson-dressed figure she'd seen earlier, it was gone. The beam in her hand shook uncontrollably. Then, a whisper, soft and close, brushed the shell of her ear. Greater than, "You shouldn't be here." Haruka screamed, dropping the flashlight. She ran, slamming the metal door shut behind her. From the other side, she heard something, a thud, like fists pounding against the steel. Desperate to get out. The next morning, when security reviewed the night footage, something was off. The video showed Haruka entering the sealed room, but not leaving it. The final frame froze on the empty display hall. Only one figure stood in the middle, the mannequin in the crimson dress, staring straight into the camera. Chapter 3: The Midnight Recording. After Haruka's intrusion into the sealed room, the entire security system on the third floor of Kagawa began acting strange. Surveillance videos flickered, the feeds distorted with static. Now and then, one could glimpse a shadow moving across the frames, but when the footage was replayed, the shadow was gone. The head of security, Mr. Sato, was the first to notice. During his 2:58 a.m. patrol, a motion sensor triggered on the third-floor monitor, the sealed women's display area. He zoomed in, expecting a stray janitor or rodent. Instead, he saw a mannequin slightly out of place, its elongated shadow stretching unnaturally across the floor, like someone mid-stride. Probably the draft from the air conditioner, he muttered, though a chill crawled up his neck. He labeled the clip anomaly, movement detected. When he played it again, a new sound appeared through the static, faint laughter. Distant but human. The manager's warning. The next morning, Haruka was summoned to the manager's office. Greater than, "You entered a restricted zone," the man said sharply. "Do you have any idea how many people got hurt because of that room?" Haruka bowed, apologizing, but didn't dare mention the voice she had heard. Before she left, the manager added quietly, almost as an afterthought, "Greater than, if you ever see something move that shouldn't move, pretend you didn't." The recording. That night, Haruka worked again, alone. She brought along a small voice recorder, the one she usually used for studying English. Though tonight she turned it on just for comfort. The third floor was cold as always. The fluorescent lights buzzed faintly. Haruka wiped the display glass, her heartbeat matching the rhythm of the rag against the pane. Then, 3 soft knocks came from behind the glass. Greater than talk. She froze, slowly turned, nothing. But the mannequin in the crimson dress now stood closer than before, barely 3 meters away. Her knees gave out, the cleaning cart tipped over. The recorder fell from her pocket and clattered to the floor, still running. From its tiny speaker came a low hiss, and a whisper, not her own voice. Greater than, Haruka, you're beautiful? Let me borrow your body. Haruka screamed, grabbed the recorder, and bolted down the stairs. When she reached the first floor, Mr. Sato found her pale as a corpse, trembling. She handed him the recorder without a word. He rewound it. At first, only her panicked breathing. Then, faint, feminine, that same whisper. Now calm, almost tender. Greater than, next time, don't leave me alone. The device sparked, smoke curling from its seams, then died. No one could explain why. Aftermath. The next morning, all third-floor cameras were found broken. The maintenance crew discovered a red handprint smeared across the main lens, far above human reach. Inside the display hall, the mannequin in the crimson dress had shifted again. It no longer faced forward. Now it stood turned toward the exit, as if waiting for someone to come back. Chapter 4. The blood-stained dress. 3 days after the recorder incident, the atmosphere inside Kagawa department store changed completely. Several night shift staff resigned, whispering that they'd heard footsteps upstairs long after closing. Even Mr. Sato, who had seen decades of night patrols, began losing sleep. He often felt someone staring at him through the black screens of the monitors. The morning discovery. On Monday morning, Haruka was reassigned to help arrange new products on the third floor. Reluctantly, she climbed the stairs. Daylight streamed through the large glass windows, bathing the mannequins in pale gold. Miyamoto-san was there, adjusting dresses and checking hangers. Then she froze before the mannequin in the crimson dress. Greater than, strange, this one isn't on today's display list. Haruka approached. The dress looked different. The cuffs of the sleeves were dark, soaked through with something brownish, and the fabric along the torso looked damp, glistening faintly in the light. A sharp metallic scent hit Haruka's nose. Is that blood? She whispered. Miyamoto's face went white. She tried to wipe the stain with a cloth, but the red mark wouldn't fade. No matter how hard she scrubbed, it seemed absorbed into the fibers themselves, as if the fabric had been dyed with it. When she turned to call the manager, Haruka noticed the mannequin's fingers were wet, a drop of fresh red liquid sliding down to the floor. Nobody could explain where it came from. The mistake. By noon, the management decided to destroy the crimson dress before rumors spread. A stockroom worker named Kenji was assigned to take it to the disposal furnace. He wrapped the dress in a black plastic bag and carried it into the service elevator. Halfway down, the lights flickered. The elevator jolted, then stopped between floors, dead silent. Kenji pressed the emergency button. No response. In the dim, strobing light, he heard the sound of fabric rustling from inside the bag. Then a pale hand slipped out, its nails scraping across the steel wall. Kenji screamed. When rescuers forced open the doors, they found him collapsed, arm bleeding with deep scratch marks. The bag lay ripped open on the floor. The dress was gone. That night, Haruka went home early but couldn't stop thinking about it. Before leaving, she glanced back at the third-floor hall. Through the reflection of the glass, she saw something red glimmering faintly in the corner. She crept closer, heart pounding. The crimson dress had returned, neatly fitted again on the same mannequin. The stains at the wrists were still fresh, still wet. Tears welled in Haruka's eyes. The overhead light flickered, casting a pulse of brightness across the mannequin's face, and in that instant its lips gleamed as though freshly painted. A soft laugh floated through the air, gentle and mocking. Greater than, more beautiful now, aren't I, Haruka? She ran without looking back. But in the mirror at the end of the hallway, she caught one last glimpse. The mannequin in the crimson dress turning its head to follow her. Chapter 5. The Secret of Yuki. Rumors of the crimson dress mannequin spread quickly through Kagawa department store. Some said it was a trick of the lights. Others whispered that someone was trying to frighten the new staff. But deep down everyone shared the same fear, that one night the glass eyes might suddenly look back at them. Management forbade anyone to mention the bloody dress. sealing off the entire display area again. Yet one evening, while Haruka was mopping on the second floor, her phone rang. The voice on the other end was low, rasping, a woman's whisper. Greater than, Haruka, you're still working there, aren't you? Don't let her see you. Haruka froze. Who is this? Greater than, it's Yuki, the caller breathed. The survivor's story. The next day, Haruka met Yuki at a small cafe near Shinjuku Station. Yuki had once worked at Kagawa, 10 years ago, but left after the accident. She looked fragile, hair disheveled, eyes rimmed red with sleeplessness. Greater than, that mannequin, Yuki said, isn't just a mannequin. She told Haruka that in 2014 the store held a special exhibition called The Eternal Beauty. The theme was based on the legendary model Ayane Mori, who had died in a photography studio fire in 1972. To honor her, Kagawa's head artisan created a mannequin modeled perfectly after her proportions, skin tone, shape, even the delicate angle of her smile. Greater than, I was assigned to clean it every night, Yuki went on. At first it looked like a sleeping woman, but then it started changing. Each night its lips grew redder, its wrists bluer, like blood was flowing beneath the paint. Her hands shook. Greater than, one night I heard someone laugh behind me. When I turned around, it had opened its eyes. Yuki quit the next morning. But before she left, curiosity made her return once more to the third floor. Through the glass she saw someone touching the mannequin from inside the display case. That person had no reflection. The warning. Haruka, Yuki said, gripping her hand, if you ever smell lavender, run. Ayane loved that scent. When she died, her hair still carried it. Haruka didn't know what to believe. Yuki didn't seem insane, only like someone who had seen too much. Before they parted, Yuki pressed a small rusted key into Haruka's palm, the number B3 engraved faintly on it. Greater than, if you want the truth, she whispered, go to the basement. But never go alone. Disappearance. 3 days later, Yuki failed to answer her calls. At her apartment, the landlord said she had moved out in the middle of the night, leaving nothing behind except a single note stuck to the bathroom mirror. Written in crimson lipstick, uneven and desperate, were the words, Greater than, she found me. Chapter 6. The diary in the locker. After Yuki vanished, Haruka could not shake her last words. Greater than, if you want the truth, go to the basement. But the basement of Kagawa had been locked for decades, and the key Yuki gave, marked B3, felt heavy in her pocket. Almost warm, as though waiting. She wasn't ready to use it. Something inside warned her that if she opened that door, she might never walk out again. The forgotten locker. One morning, while cleaning the old staff changing room, Haruka noticed a metal locker sealed with brittle tape. On the tape was a faded name written in black ink. Greater than Y Mori 1972. Mori, she whispered. The name matched. Ayane Mori. Heart pounding, Haruka looked around, no one in sight. She took a utility knife and sliced through the tape. The door groaned open, exhaling decades of dust and damp air. Inside hung no clothes, only a leather-bound notebook, its pages yellowed and sticking together with age. Embossed on the cover were 3 characters. Greater than Nikimori Ayane, diary. Haruka's fingers trembled as she opened it. The handwriting was elegant, precise. Greater than, they call me a symbol of beauty. But I have seen the horror beneath silk and light. Ayane's final pages. The further she read, the more the handwriting faltered, letters slanting into panic. Ayane described endless photo sessions, how the head designer, Takamura, obsessed over her perfection. Greater than, he says he wants to preserve me forever. He mixes ashes into the paint for the mannequins. He says it makes the skin more lifelike. Greater than, I heard someone crying in the workshop tonight. The whole room reeked of lavender. The final entry was written in jagged strokes, stained with something dark. Greater than, if you are reading this, burn everything. Don't let them trap me again. Beneath the words was a small red handprint and a single black strand of hair pressed between the pages. The mirror. Haruka shut the diary, her pulse hammering. Suddenly she felt it, someone behind her. In the mirror above the sinks she saw her own reflection, and behind it, a woman in a crimson dress, her head tilted slightly, half her face hidden by black hair. Haruka spun around, nothing. But the faint scent of lavender spread through the room, sweet yet suffocating. She clutched the diary and fled, unaware that the mirror behind her now bore a line scratched into the fogged glass. Written as if by a nail. Greater than, thank you for reading, Haruka. Chapter 7. The Forbidden Photograph. Haruka didn't sleep that night. She kept rereading Ayane Mori's diary, each line whispering in her mind as if the woman herself were murmuring through the paper, gentle, melodic, but choked, like a voice pressing against glass. At dawn, she went to the archival storage room in the back of Kagawa, where the store's history was kept, decades of photos, ledgers, and yellowed advertising posters. Dust hung heavy in the air, motes dancing in the thin light from a flickering bulb. In one drawer labeled 1972 The Eternal Beauty Exhibition, she found a bundle of photographs, the edges brittle with time. Most showed smiling models, stylists, flashes of a long-gone glamour. But the last photo stopped her heart. The woman and the doll. It showed a dim workshop. A young woman, beautiful, delicate, radiant, stood beside an unfinished mannequin. The caption beneath read, Ayane Mori and the first prototype. Ayane stood to the right, wearing a white silk dress, smiling softly at the camera. Beside her, the mannequin rested a hand on her shoulder. Its face was blank, yet its eyes, even in black and white, seemed alive. Haruka squinted closer and froze. The mannequin was smiling. Not painted lips, smiling. A faint curve that was too human, too knowing. Behind Ayane's shoulder, in the shadowed corner, was something else, a third hand, resting lightly around her waist. Distorted images. Haruka ran to the photocopier, desperate to study the details. But as the machine hummed, the paper jammed halfway through. The copy that emerged was smeared, warped. Ayane's face had blurred into gray fog, leaving only two hollow black eyes. The mannequin's face, however, had sharpened. Now it was staring directly at Haruka. Her hand shook. She dropped the paper just as a sound shattered the stillness. The picture frame had fallen off the shelf. Glass exploding across the floor. Heart pounding, she picked it up. The original photo inside was no longer the same. Ayane was gone. Only the mannequin remained, standing alone. The reflection. Haruka bolted into the corridor. Fluorescent lights flickered, throwing shadows across the walls. Every few seconds, as the lights blinked off, she saw, in the glass windows lining the hall, a figure walking behind her, a woman in a red dress. Long hair swaying. When she turned, the hall was empty. But her footsteps were echoed by another set, slow and deliberate, matching her pace. At the corridor's end, she turned again, nothing. Only the photocopy she dropped earlier, fluttering in the draft. It landed face up at her feet. Scrawled beneath the image in faint, scratched letters were the words. Greater than, don't let them forget me. Haruka's breath caught. And from somewhere nearby, the air filled once more with the sweet, suffocating scent of lavender. Chapter 8. The Scent of Lavender. Since the day she discovered the photograph, Haruka had been haunted by nightmares. Every night, the same dream returned. She stood alone inside the third-floor display hall. Rows of headless mannequins surrounded her in a silent circle, their cracked necks glistening under the white fluorescent lights. At the center stood a woman in a crimson dress, long black hair hiding half her face. When Haruka tried to run, the walls seemed to close in, and the air thickened with the cloying scent of lavender, so sweet, so heavy that she could not breathe. She would wake gasping, drenched in cold sweat, yet the fragrance lingered, as if it had followed her out of the dream. The bottle. One night she noticed it again, that same scent, faint but distinct, drifting through her small Tokyo apartment. She searched every corner, every shelf. Then she saw it, a glass perfume bottle sitting on her desk. Its cap was open. She didn't remember ever owning it. The label was faded, but one word remained legible: Ayane. Haruka's fingers trembled as she picked it up. The perfume inside shimmered faintly, tinted red under the moonlight. When she brought it close, her pulse quickened, that same fragrance she'd smelled in her dreams. The mirror. The next morning, Haruka went to work pale and exhausted. In the staff restroom, she splashed her face with cold water. The lavender smell filled the air again, stronger this time. In the mirror, her reflection stared back, haggard and sunken-eyed. The hallway behind her was empty. She looked down to rinse again. When she raised her head, her heart stopped. Behind her reflection stood a woman in a crimson dress. Her hair obscured half her face, head tilted slightly. She was smiling. Haruka spun around, the room was empty. But when she looked back at the mirror, the woman remained, closer now, standing right behind her reflection. The mirror fogged, and a single wet handprint appeared on the glass from the inside. The dream. That night, Haruka didn't want to sleep. But exhaustion dragged her under. She dreamed of a dim workshop. The year 1972. The room smelled of chemicals and lavender. A man in a craftsman's mask was painting a layer of white over a woman's body lying perfectly still on a table. It was Ayane Mori. Greater than, she wanted to stay beautiful forever. The man whispered. Eternal beauty demands a price. Haruka tried to move, to scream, but her legs wouldn't obey. Ayane's eyes opened. Tears streamed down her cheeks, yet her lips formed a smile. Greater than, don't be afraid. Haruka, she said softly. I only want to borrow your body, to live again. The mark. Haruka awoke gasping. Her room was dark. Her throat burned. She reached for her neck and froze. 5 faint bruises, shaped like fingers, circled her throat. On the floor, the perfume bottle had fallen over. Its liquid spilled, red, not clear. The air was thick with lavender. Outside her window, the city lights of Shinjuku glimmered faintly. And there, across the street, in the reflection of a darkened shop window, stood a woman in a crimson dress, perfectly still, head tilted, smiling at her. Chapter 9. The Curse of the Mannequin. For 3 nights straight, Haruka didn't sleep. Each time she closed her eyes, she saw the same scene, the dim workshop, the smell of paint and lavender. Ayane Mori's pale body lying still as someone brushed layers of white across her skin. It felt too vivid to be a dream. It felt like a memory, but not her own. The letter in the wooden box. At sunrise, Haruka returned to Kagawa department store. She went to the old atelier, hidden behind the supply storage, where the mannequins had once been crafted by hand. The air there was heavy, stale, and strangely sweet, as if time itself had stopped rotting. Above the rusted door was a faded plaque. Greater than, Takamura Atelier. She used the B3 key Yuki had given her. The door creaked open, releasing a wave of cold air laced with paint, metal, and faint lavender. Inside, beneath a thick layer of dust, she found a wooden box on a cracked table. The clasp had rusted, but with some effort she pried it open. Inside was a stack of yellowed papers tied with a thin red cord. At the top of the first page, dated March 25, 1972, were the words, "Greater than, to the one who finds this letter, if you are reading it. She is not yet at peace." It was signed, Takamura, the very man mentioned in Ayane's diary. The confession. The letter began shakily, ink smudged by trembling hands. Takamura confessed that he had committed a sin against death itself. Greater than, Ayane Mori was perfection. When she died in the studio fire, something in me broke. I could not bear to let her decay. Greater than, I brought her back here, under the guise of restoration. But it was not restoration, it was desecration. Greater than, I mixed her ashes into resin. I shaped her again, piece by piece, covering her with layer upon layer of her own dust. I called her Eternal Ayane. He wrote that during the final night of sculpting, he heard her voice calling from within the hollow mold, faint, childlike. Greater than, she said she was cold. Every layer of paint I brushed over her, I felt warmth beneath my fingertips, as if skin still lived beneath it. Greater than, when I finished, she was perfect again. But her eyes were no longer glass. Greater than, they were watching me. Greater than, that night I dreamt she stood over me, smiling. When I woke, the mannequin's cheeks were wet, and my hands, covered in blood. The final line was scrawled in frantic ink. Greater than, if anyone finds her, never let light touch her eyes. And never let her see her reflection. The mirror. Haruka's hands shook as she lowered the letter. Everything fit, the diary, the perfume, the dreams. Ayane's soul had been trapped in her own image, sealed within the very thing built to preserve her. She stood, ready to leave. But as she turned toward the cracked mirror on the wall, she froze. In the reflection, another woman was standing behind her. Ayane, wearing the crimson dress, smiling faintly. Haruka whirled around. The room was empty. But when she looked back, the reflection remained. Ayane lifted a pale hand and pressed it gently against the glass, right where Haruka's own hand rested. Their palms aligned perfectly. Then came the voice, not from the air, but from inside her skull. Greater than, help me out. Haruka? Your body fits mine perfectly. The mirror cracked down the middle with a sharp snap. A thin stream of dark red seeped from the fracture, like blood leaking from inside the glass. Chapter 10. The Laughter Behind the Glass. That night, Tokyo was drenched in rain. Kagawa department store closed as usual at 9 p.m., its glass walls glowing faintly under the neon haze. But one light still burned on the third floor, the security room. Haruka had been temporarily reassigned there after the previous incidents. Her task was simple: review and test the security cameras after their repair. It should have been an easy, uneventful night. Yet even before midnight, she could feel it, that quiet hum in the air, as if the building itself was breathing. The footage. She sat before the screens, scrolling through each camera feed one by one. For a while, everything looked normal: empty aisles, mannequins standing still, shadows unmoving. Then, on camera 3, women's fashion. Something flickered. A blur, a shift. Haruka leaned closer. The mannequin in the crimson dress had turned its head. Not abruptly, but slowly, unnaturally, joint by joint, the faint sound of creaking plastic bleeding through the audio feed. Creak, creak. Her pulse quickened. She replayed the footage, half convinced it was a glitch. But in the slowed playback, the motion was clear. The mannequin's head was indeed moving. And then, one by one, the others around it began to change position. Ever so slightly. The hallway. Haruka couldn't ignore it anymore. She grabbed her flashlight and climbed the stairs to the third floor. The hallway was long, lined with mirrors and display windows, the kind of silence that amplifies every step. When she reached the fashion section, everything was still. The mannequins stood in their places, frozen, elegant. She exhaled shakily. It's fine, she whispered, just my mind. Then, 3 soft knocks came from inside the display glass. Greater than talk. She turned, flashlight trembling. No one there, but on the inner side of the glass, she saw a faint handprint, fresh and glistening. Her body went cold. A sound came from behind her, the dry shuffle of plastic against the floor. She turned just in time to see one mannequin collapse, its arm twisting, fingers scraping the tiles, leaving long scratches. She stumbled backward, and from somewhere behind came another sound. Thud, thud, thud. Footsteps. Many footsteps. Haruka looked up. In the flickering light, the mannequins were moving, stepping out of their glass prisons, joints clicking softly. They turned toward her, faces blank, eyes catching reflections of the dying lights. Then, from deep within the corridor, a woman's laugh rose, soft, echoing, melodic and hollow. Dash dash dash. Eternal Ayane. Haruka ran for the elevator, slamming the button, but the doors refused to open. Behind her, a familiar scent filled the air, lavender. She turned slowly. The mannequin in the crimson dress now stood only a few steps away. Head tilted, its glossy lips curving into a faint smile. Greater than, you read his letter. The voice whispered, the same voice from her dreams. You know who I am now, don't you, Haruka? Tears welled in Haruka's eyes. I just wanted to help you, she cried. I wanted to set you free. Ayane's smile widened, distorted. Greater than, free? I've never been allowed to die. The other mannequins tilted their heads at once, perfectly synchronized. Then, one after another, they began to laugh, soft, breathless laughter, echoing off the glass, until it filled the entire floor. The sound grew louder, sharper, rising like wind through 1,000 throats that could not breathe. Haruka covered her ears and ran, but every corridor led her back to the same place, the long hallway of mirrors. In the reflections, the mannequins moved differently, not in step with reality. And in the center of the glass stood Ayane, extending a hand toward her. Greater than, come here. Haruka, it's beautiful on this side. A cold hand touched Haruka's shoulder from behind. She screamed. The lights went out. Dash dash dash. The morning after. When dawn came, security found Haruka unconscious in the third-floor hallway. Around her, dozens of mannequins stood in a circle, their hands positioned as if reaching toward her. On the glass of the central display window, written in smeared red paint, were the words, Greater than, you heard me, didn't you? Chapter 11. The woman in the security footage. After that night, the Kagawa department store felt different. Even in daylight, the third floor seemed darker than the rest, as if the light refused to stay there. Rumors spread quickly among the staff that the mannequins sometimes shifted their poses when no one was looking, that a woman's laughter could be heard through the walls, that the crimson dress still gleamed like it was wet. Haruka was moved to a lower floor, but peace did not return to her. The sound of clicking heels followed her wherever she went, and whenever she closed her eyes, she could still hear it, the laughter behind the glass. Dash dash dash. The recovered file. 3 days later, a technician from the security team came to Mr. Sato with a small external drive. Greater than, we managed to recover one of the deleted videos from the blackout night, he said. The clip was timestamped 3:13 a.m., the same hour all the incidents had occurred. Sato called Haruka to the monitoring room. Together they watched the flickering footage. At first, the corridor appeared empty, only the mannequins standing motionless under the cold lights. Then, at the 37th second, a figure appeared. A woman in a crimson dress, long black hair flowing, walked slowly down the hallway. Her bare feet made no sound. Her shadow moved, but it was far too long, stretching up the wall like liquid. She stopped mid-frame and turned, looking straight into the camera. Greater than, that's impossible, Sato muttered. No one was on that floor. Her head tilted slightly. The fluorescent lights flickered. The image warped, her face dissolving into static except for her eyes and her smile. The same smile as the mannequins. At 1 minute and 73 seconds, the feed went black. Then a single frame flashed, so quickly that only Haruka caught it. Her own reflection, standing beside the woman in red, looking directly into the lens. The video ended. Dash dash dash. Panic and denial. Word spread among employees. Some refused to work night shifts. Others claimed that when they closed the security room door, someone knocked back from the other side. The manager ordered the footage deleted, but Sato quietly made a copy. Greater than, it's not a glitch, he told Haruka. It only happens when you're nearby. That night, he replayed the video in slow motion. Halfway through, the footage zoomed in on its own, onto Haruka's face in the reflection. And right behind her reflection, Another face appeared, pale, expressionless, smiling too wide. Its eyes were hollow, black, and endless. The speakers hissed. Through the distortion, a voice whispered, "Greater than, don't erase me, Haruka." Sato yanked the power cord. The monitors went dark. But even in the silence, they both heard it, the faint sound of heels on tile. Approaching slowly from the hall. Vanished evidence. The next morning, the drive containing the footage was gone. Security logs showed it had been removed at 3:13 a.m. by someone in a janitor's uniform. But when they checked the staff list, no such employee existed. Haruka studied the grainy image. The woman's wrist bore a distinct circular birthmark. The same mark Ayane Mori was rumored to have had, just below her left hand. That night, as the rain fell, all the third-floor cameras flickered back to life on their own. No one touched the controls. On every screen appeared the same scene, the woman in the crimson dress walking slowly down the corridor. And behind her, Haruka's reflection, standing inside the glass display. Her eyes blank and shining like crystal. Chapter 12. The Hidden Room Beneath the Floor. After watching the video, Haruka knew the truth could no longer stay buried. Ayane Mori was not a haunting, she was a prisoner, trapped inside the body that had been crafted for her. And now, through Haruka, she was waking up. The key Yuki had given her, marked B3, weighed heavily in her pocket, as if pulsing. That night, when the store finally closed, Haruka returned to the third floor. Rain lashed the glass walls. The mannequins watched her in silence. At the end of the hallway, behind the cracked mirror where she had once seen Ayane's reflection, she noticed something odd, a section of floor darker than the rest, its edges faintly raised. Kneeling down, she felt a faint breath of air coming through the cracks. Her hands trembled as she pried up the floorboards. Beneath them was a metal hatch, rusted and cold. Engraved on it, in Japanese kanji, was a single character, Sen, Mori. Haruka's chest tightened. She slipped in the key. Click. The hatch opened, releasing a gust of icy air thick with the scent of lavender and chemicals. A narrow staircase descended into darkness. The room below. Haruka's flashlight flickered as she stepped down the corroded stairs. The walls were damp, every footstep echoed like a heartbeat. At the bottom lay a small, windowless chamber. Water dripped from the ceiling. The light revealed dozens of mannequin heads, arranged in a perfect circle on the floor, their faces unfinished. Skin too smooth, eyes empty. Some had dried red paint splattered across their cheeks. Others had something dark and organic beneath the paint, like veins. In the center of the room stood a metal frame shaped like a human body. Its ribs hollow, its joints wired tight. Inside were ashes, bones, and strands of long black hair woven into the structure. Above it hung a rotted wooden sign. Greater than, prototype #00, Ayane, human base. Haruka's breath caught. Her flashlight shook violently. And then, a whisper. Close to her ear. Greater than, you finally came. The voices in the walls. The light overhead buzzed and dimmed. From the walls, faint whispering rose, hundreds of murmurs overlapping, like breaths escaping through cracks in the concrete. Greater than, Ayane is still here. She was never allowed to leave. You're her, Haruka. The air grew colder. Haruka backed away, stumbling. Something rolled across the floor and struck her foot, a mannequin head. Face identical to her own. She screamed. It stared up at her, smiling faintly, eyes glistening like wet glass. The light blinked out for a moment, and when it flickered back, Ayane was standing there. Her crimson dress fluttered though there was no wind. Her hand rested lightly on Haruka's shoulder in the reflection of a small mirror propped on the table. Greater than, thank you for finding my body, Ayane whispered. The mirror trembled, fogging with cold breath. Cracks spread across its surface. A soft laugh, part sorrow, part triumph, filled the room. Then everything went black. From somewhere in the dark came the sound of metal twisting. And a faint groan, not human, not machine. Chapter 13. The Awakening. The air inside the underground room was thick and still. Haruka stood amid the ring of mannequin heads, her breath shallow, the beam of her flashlight trembling over their glassy faces. From somewhere deep in the dark came the sound of metal scraping against concrete, slow, deliberate, as if something were remembering how to move. Then a hand, white, slender, jointed, emerged from the steel frame marked Ayane, human base. It twitched, then reached farther, its nails dragging sparks from the floor. Haruka backed against the wall, the flashlight stuttering in her grip. The arm kept coming, joint after joint, until it touched the light. The painted skin cracked open. From within seeped a dark, thick liquid that smelled of iron and perfume. Greater than, "You found me at last." A voice breathed, soft and intimate, echoing inside Haruka's skull. The mirror. On the far wall hung a cracked mirror. Haruka raised the flashlight toward it, and froze. The reflection staring back was not her own. A woman stood there instead, Ayane Mori. Hair black as ink, lips red as blood, eyes shining with an unnatural calm. When Haruka stepped back, the reflection stepped forward. The glass rippled like water. "Greater than, I need your body," Ayane whispered. "You want beauty, I want life, we're not so different." Haruka screamed and hurled the flashlight. The mirror shattered, shards exploding across the floor, but each fragment still held Ayane's smile. Multiplied into 100 tiny, perfect versions. From the broken pieces, hands of pale glass began to reach out, grasping at her ankles. She kicked and tore free, but every touch burned cold, leaving red welts on her skin. The light failed completely. In the dark, Ayane's laughter swelled, delicate and cruel. Possession. Something icy pressed against Haruka's face, fingers, tracing her jaw, sliding into her hair. A gust of freezing air poured into her mouth, filling her lungs. She tried to scream but no sound came. Her body went rigid, nerves locking one by one. "Greater than, don't fight it," the voice whispered. "Let me make you perfect." The world went silent. Then, nothing but black. Morning. When the maintenance crew opened the hatch the next day, they found Haruka lying on the concrete. Her pulse was weak but steady. On the wall behind her was a smear of blood shaped like a hand dragging downward. When they carried her out, one worker gasped. Under Haruka's half-closed eyelids, something glittered faintly, a thin film like glass, catching the light, just like the eyes of eternal Ayane. Chapter 14. The last day of Kagawa department store. A week after the incident in the basement, the atmosphere inside Kagawa had changed completely. Though the store reopened, people avoided the third floor. Even during the day, customers complained of strange reflections in the mirrors, of mannequins shifting when no one watched, of hearing a faint, feminine laugh behind them. At night, guards said they could smell lavender drifting through the halls, but no one dared to check where it came from. Haruka had been placed on leave. When her coworkers saw her again, she seemed different. Her skin was paler, her voice softer, her eyes glinting with a faint glassy sheen that caught the light. And wherever she walked, that same floral scent lingered in the air. The night of 3/13. It was raining hard that night. Mr. Sato, the head of security, was on duty as usual. Around 3 a.m., he caught the smell of something sharp and burning, like melted plastic. He looked up the stairwell toward the third floor and saw light flickering behind the sealed doors. "Impossible," he muttered, climbing quickly. The door to the women's section, locked since the incident, now stood wide open. Inside, every mannequin had fallen. Glass shards littered the floor. A red glow pulsed from the center of the room, as if the air itself was burning. Across the far wall, written in jagged streaks of paint or blood, were 3 words. "Greater than, I am awake." And in the middle of it all stood Haruka, wearing the crimson dress. Her hair was long and black now, her skin white as porcelain, and her eyes, shining like 2 polished mirrors. Haruka? Sato whispered. She turned, smiling gently. Greater than beautiful, isn't it, Sato-san? Her voice was soft but doubled, like two people speaking in perfect unison. The fire. The lights above exploded, one by one. Around her, the mannequins began to stir. They lifted their heads, turned toward her, and laughed, a chorus of hollow, clicking laughter echoing through the floor. Sato stumbled back as the air shimmered with heat. A spark burst from the ceiling, and flames leapt across the displays, devouring the curtains and dresses. Through the growing smoke, he saw Haruka, or Ayane, step into the fire. Her red dress flowed around her like liquid flame. Her smile did not fade. Greater than, at last, she whispered, her voice a blend of longing and relief. I'm free. The mannequins followed her into the inferno, melting, collapsing one after another, their painted faces liquefying into blank masks of wax and ash. Sato ran. Behind him, the world turned to fire. An explosion tore through the glass ceiling, scattering burning fragments into the rain. By morning, Kagawa department store was gone, a blackened skeleton of metal and smoke. The aftermath. The fire was ruled an electrical malfunction. No bodies were found, only a twisted metal frame in the center of the ruins, still warm to the touch, and a hardened sheet of red resin, fused to the floor like skin. When investigators reviewed the remaining security footage, they found only static, except for one frame. Timestamp: 3:13 a.m. In the frame stood a woman in a crimson dress, smiling calmly in the middle of the fire, her reflection flickering in every shard of glass around her. Her face was serene, almost grateful. She looked exactly like Ayane Mori in the photograph from 1972. Chapter 15. The mannequin in the new store. A year after the fire, the site where Kagawa department store once stood had become an empty lot, overgrown with weeds and silence. Locals avoided it. Some said that on windy nights, one could still hear soft laughter coming from the ruins, or smell lavender drifting through the smoke that rose from the ground. But Tokyo never sleeps, and the city forgets quickly. Before long, a new building was erected across the same foundation, a sleek, modern fashion boutique called Studio REN. It opened with dazzling lights and music, promising a new era of beauty. Inside, at the very center of the showroom, stood a single mannequin, female, elegant, dressed in a crimson silk gown. No one knew where it had come from. The shipping invoice simply listed it as donated, unknown origin. The new employee, a young clerk named Asami, was assigned to polish the display area. As she wiped the glass, she noticed something strange about the mannequin's face. It wasn't like the others, not lifeless, not plastic. The skin had a faint translucence, almost like flesh under light. And the eyes, clear, glassy, deep, seemed to follow her. Greater than creepy, isn't it? Joked her manager. That piece came from the old department store before the fire. They say it was modeled after a famous model from the 70s. Asami smiled weakly, pretending not to care, but she couldn't shake the feeling that the mannequin was watching her every move. When she turned her back, she could almost hear a faint rustle of silk. 3:13 a.m. The store's surveillance cameras recorded through the night after the grand opening. At exactly 3:13 a.m., one camera glitched. The mannequin in the crimson dress, the same one in the front display, moved. First, its head tilted to the side. Then its lips parted slightly, the faintest trace of a smile forming. A shadow flickered behind it, a woman's silhouette, long hair swaying, touching the mannequin's shoulder from inside the glass. Then the feed cut to black. The morning after, when Asami arrived for her morning shift, she noticed that the mannequin had changed position. Instead of facing outward toward the street, it now faced inward, toward the store. No one admitted moving it. While cleaning the base of the glass display, she noticed something carved into the lower corner, letters so faint they were nearly invisible. Greater than, don't forget me. She stared, chills crawling up her arms. A moment later, the faint smell of lavender filled the air. Asami lifted her head. In the reflection of the glass, she didn't see her own face. A different woman stared back, long hair, a serene smile, eyes bright as mirrors. Greater than, "She's looking at me," Asami whispered. That night, the cameras began recording again. The timestamp read 3:13 a.m. Greater than, beauty never dies. It only finds a new body to wear. Kagawa is gone, burned to ash. But the beauty it created never truly vanished. A new store rises, a new face stands in the glass. And somewhere, a patient soul still waits to be admired once more. Because beauty, as Ayane Mori once whispered, never dies. It only finds a new body to wear. And when you smile at your reflection, make sure the reflection is smiling with you, not at you.
Like and subscribe to Whispering Dark Tales for more chilling ghost stories.